Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Now, Island doesn't exist anymore. With that being said, I guess I'll spoil Island. But I do think watching it for the first time is unique if you kind of don't know exactly what to expect going into it. So what did I expect going into it? The movie, as far as I knew, was about Joel being on an island by himself. It's made of cardboard, and it's a cardboard island. I kind of assumed that's the movie. The movie's going to be that. And it's like an hour and 9 minutes, which is very short for a movie, but kind of long for that premise. Whenever I was watching Island, I was really just wanting to get to Pretend That You Love Me, because that's the one that everybody says is good. That's the one that has the most hype oriented around it. And every movie up until this point sort of felt like I was getting through it with the intention of getting to that movie. And to be honest, I mean, part of it was just me wanting to get through all of the movies so that I could make a video about it. But if there was one of these movies that I wanted to see more than the other ones, it was Pretend That You Love Me. And this one sort of stopped that and reframed the project. First off, I liked it more than I expected I would like even Pretend That You Love Me. I liked it more than I expected I would like any of his movies. And that sort of made it clear that I could probably expect to like the things that come after it. I feel like Island is sort of a breakthrough. I don't know exactly what I mean by that, but Island and its follow-up, Forget About Everything for a While, it seems like something clicked and he figured out how to make his movies. The movie starts and it is him. It's just him on the island, and okay, it takes itself seriously. You figure that out pretty immediately, that this isn't like a big joke or anything like that. There's not going to be a bunch of jokes. The silliest thing is just like the aesthetic of it all, the fact that all the things, you know, he makes animals that he talks to out of cardboard, and all the animals are voiced by him. You know, you're like, okay, what all is he gonna do with just that premise? Like, how can he flesh out a whole movie with just that? And it's all filmed inside. I don't know if I said that, but it's all filmed inside his apartment, and he uses a projector sort of to project the ocean behind him. And obviously, you know, it's a small area. There's a limit in the number of shots that he can use, so there's a sort of staleness that the visuals sort of acquire as it goes on. There's definitely attempts to keep things as dynamic as he can reasonably be expected to. I mean, he also made it by himself. It's the most he just made it by himself of all of his movies. And you see this cycle of like it starts off, there's a seagull, and the seagull's squawking, and he's like, shut up, seagull, go away. And the seagull leaves him, and then he's sad about that. And then there's a fish, and the fish like talks to him. But then, you know, Joel's vibe is just too bad. And Joel also considers killing the fish, so he doesn't, you know, the fish leaves. Joel jerks off a chair. That happens. I don't have any footage of that because, you know, Joel took it down from his YouTube and his Vimeo and whatever other things he had. I'm certain it exists somewhere on the internet, probably, but you would really have to look for it to find it, because not that many people actually saw Island. There's a chance it wasn't archived. But going through that opening, going through the first half of the movie, has a really interesting effect on like how the rest of the movie plays out. I'm nervous about this. Going in and recording anything outside is a little nerve-wracking for me, personally. I've never had to do it before. So. Oh shit, a lizard. Do you see it? Can you see the lizard? Is that? It's right on the corner of that there rock. It's kind of a cool lizard too, honestly. I was recording, I was like thinking about it, and then I heard somebody cough like down below where I was at. I really was. I was considering like, you know what, fuck it. Maybe I should just go down there anyway. And I chose not to. But if I had done that, if I had chosen to stay, so, like a couple other people would have gotten there like right after me. Going to a big public park It's an area where, like, you'd have to be kind of an asshole, I think, to, like, come up to me and be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, if I was recording, because it just is such a public space. And I was just going to go ahead and record. There's like a hill. I'm going to record on top of the hill. I think that's all I'm going to say for right now. And then when I get there, I'll continue, I guess. So there you go. I don't know exactly where I left off. I lost track because I drove like 30 minutes from where I started to where I am right now. First half of the movie is obviously in this very contained space, and Joel is the only character in it. He's talking to himself the whole movie. And then the second half is just Joel. There's a little alien noise. Joel washes up on the beach. He gets out of the island. He washes up on a beach. And he's just going around and talking to people. And that's really it. There's a little bit of a thread that picks up in like the last quarter of the movie, but like it's mostly just him having different conversations and interactions with random people. A lot of it's filmed from like very far away. You can tell he just put a lav mic on himself and like went up and talked to a bunch of different people and sort of just filmed that. And it's from a distance. I don't think it's the most invasive thing. You can maybe say it's a little bit questionable, but it's also, you know, it's in public. Like you can just film people if you want. I wouldn't want to do it, but I don't think it's that bad. He meets like a girl and they talk. Initially, it's shot from very far away. He's pretty smart because I don't think I was sure that like this was somebody that was in on it until they had a scene where they got together. I also thought that this girl was a boy until like they hook up in the movie, and that's whenever I realized, because all the shots are still from very far away, and she had like short hair, I think. So I thought the first time watching it, I was like, why is Joel talking to this boy? The movie ends and he's like at Disney World by himself, and he like calls the girl he hooked up with, and he's like talking about how he's been thinking about her a bunch. There's a lot of stuff you could probably talk about. The thing that jumps out to me the most is how the two halves of the movie interact with each other. They would both be incomplete without the other half, and that seems sort of self-evident, but there's barely any threads actually holding the two together beyond the fact that you're watching the same character. But like, you know, the first half of the movie, and it's almost exactly the first half, he's like in this solitary location by himself. Most of the shots are pretty close up, and there's almost no close-up shots of him at all in the whole second half of the movie, because it's all these interactions with people, and he's necessarily having to film it far away. But like, I don't know, it feels like there's this big release, like there's this, the whole world is like let into the movie after that point. I don't know, like it's more just like a contrast thing. I'm not really pointing out anything that's not apparent, but I'm just trying to describe like why it was effective for me. I guess that is a big part of it, and it was unintentional. I mean, not unintentional, but like not planned for. It's not like Joel went into the movie with the plan like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do the first half and it'll be like this, and I'll do the second half and it'll be some other way. He went in, and I don't know, the way he described it, he was like, yeah, I was just done filming in my room, and so he went outside and talked to people, and that's where it ended up. There's like a meta element to the second half of the movie that isn't as much present in the first half, where like his interactions in the second half are also like mediated by like the limitations of his ability to record. And in the end, when he hooks up with the girl, obviously it's an actor that he found. Obviously it's not like an actual person, because that would be a bit evil, actually. That would be kind of evil to do. But like within the meta of the movie, like it's a thing that he filmed without like admitting at all. So it's like he's like able to let, like the world opens up, but like at the same time it all feels very mediated by film, you know. And I don't know exactly what to take from that. I don't know. These are just sort of bad observations for the most part. It's a very good movie, but I don't think it's that that great, but it just is something that doesn't exist anywhere else. And the closest thing that I've personally seen to it is Pretend That You Love Me. That's the closest thing that I've seen to it, and that's just another one of his movies, and that isn't really the same. It doesn't do the same. It does something kind of similar, but it doesn't do the same thing. He made a video about taking it down, and I'll put a link to the video in the description. He doesn't go into very much detail. Watching the movie, and I watched it about as recently as I could have, so not long before it was taken down. There's not like egregious breaches in privacy, and it seems like most of the shots that are like where you can actually tell who's in it, like it would be very difficult to get those without them knowing that they were in a shot. All that being said, whatever I saw, that's pretty cool. It's actually cool now because I saw the movie and you might not get to unless you really look hard. And honestly, are you really gonna do that? Because let me tell you, Joel has at least one better movie, maybe two better movies, maybe three better movies, I'm not sure. Now we're talking about Forget About Everything for a while. And this is a movie that Joel made in collaboration with Mason Carter. Pretty sure that's his name. Joel's friends tend to all have names that really sound like the way that they look. I don't know why that's the case, but like Trent, look at this guy. If that ain't a Trent. Dylan Dexter. I don't know if that's his real name, but come on. And by the way, I didn't really say this in the last video. 31 Days is a collaboration between Joel and Dylan Dexter. I kind of left Dylan out. Not very fair of me. I shouldn't have done that. But I didn't talk about that movie a ton. I could have probably said more. And I probably could have been a little bit more even-handed with some of them. But I didn't. I just wasn't that interested in talking for a long time about 31 Days. The movie I was most interested in talking about, obviously, was Taking a Little Time to Feel Sorry for Myself. And so that got the bulk of the focus. And while I could have said more, I think, about the other movies, I chose not to because I didn't feel like it. So, like, what happens is Joel is house sitting for, like, a family friend or something like that. And then Mason comes over and he's drunk. Joel, like, lets him in because, you know, Mason knows the family or whatever. And it's like Mason's character has this thing where he, you know, was with the girl who Joel's house sitting for. But then after that, it's just sort of a weird dynamic between these two characters. And I like this. This is pretty cool. They don't feel like written characters in the way that I feel like a lot of characters feel. A lot of characters feel like written characters. They don't feel like real people. Not that that's like the highest value of art or whatever, but I mean, it's neat. It's neat in a way where it doesn't just feel like it's meandering bullshit or anything like that. Like, it doesn't feel like they're just written bad. It's like, no, it just feels like they're acting like people more so.
She's been with the Zach guy for like years now. You know Zach?
That's not what I'm talking. Like, that's not passion. Fuck that guy. That's not.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah. Okay. That's maybe true, but
He's
fuck
a good
him.
guy.
And they did not have.
I think they
what
really
we
love
had,
each other.
What me and
I don't
Amber
know.
had.
They
That's
seem
not what
good.
I'm talking about, though.
He makes her laugh.
It's not the same
Like,
thing.
He's funny. Whenever I've been around him, he makes me laugh.
Bottom line, it's not the same thing.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
They're having a good time, but then there's like a falling out, and there's these two halves of the house, and they each go into their own little half. It's a pretty light story in comparison to Island, and also in comparison to Pretend That You Love Me. It's a good vibe. Like, it's kind of nice. It's kind of a pleasant movie. I don't have like a ton to say. Like, I can't really spoil it, and I also can't really in that much detail describe the experience of it. And I don't just want to describe the whole plot or anything, because I don't think that would be very insightful, and I don't know. It's not long. It's like an hour long, which is great. So you should just watch it. Like, it's worth watching. It's not the best of his new films, of his phase 3. It's not the best of them, but it's like good. It's good like all the other ones are. Okay, I'm going to get into a little bit of a criticism. And it's pretty mild, but it's kind of consistent. That in pretty much every movie except Pretend That You Love Me, that's actually an exception. I don't think there was any scene or line of dialogue or anything like this. But in every movie, there's like just like one line or maybe a couple lines or maybe like a little scene, the beginning of a scene or something, where it just doesn't work right and it sounds unnatural. And I have a few different feelings about it. I'm not really sure exactly why. I mean, I'll say Island for the most part doesn't have this issue either, but Island is even weird. Like, Island is very exceptional. It's mostly in the movies there's a little bit more of a narrative, there's a little bit more of a place where they have to go, that this, I think, comes up. If you're improvising the whole movie, I think starting scenes is difficult. And I think you kind of have to work around it a little bit. And I think also whenever you really have to get to a very specific point in a conversation, I think sometimes it hurts it a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to get there naturally. And I don't know exactly how you would do that. I think you just have to improv it out more than once. You just have to go through these things a few times to get it to a point where it sounds natural. I mean, I don't even know if that's necessarily the case. They probably do retake scenes plenty of times. Like, it would be silly not to retake them at all. Another reason why I think movies may have rotted my brain in the same way that I think they've rotted a lot of people's brains, which is it changes what we perceive as realistic, and what we perceive as like appropriate reaction, like what's in the social script for certain sorts of behaviors in different situations. And I think that is kind of a factor. I don't know to what degree it is, because I feel like I'm generally not that bad about it. But like, in a lot of movies, people get upset and they'll do something weird or behave in a way that's like weird, that's not traditionally, like if you're sad you cry or whatever. People react like it doesn't make sense. And I think it's because movies have rotted their brains a little bit in terms of what they expect from reality. And I think that the same thing is probably the case to an extent for me too. The main scene I was thinking about in this movie, basically there's like two main things. And it's like when Joel Haver's like character is first woken up, he like talks to himself in a way that to me came off as like unnatural. And then when Joel thinks Mason is dead, he reacts in a way that I think is a little bit like unrealistic. Like he's like, oh shit. And it to me, it like doesn't sound like Joel would say that. Like it's clumsy whenever it comes out. It doesn't sound right. It's like he's saying it in a performance. I don't know, like it feels weird. And I don't know if that's just me or if it's actually the movie. It's kind of hard to tell. I feel like I don't have a lot play-by-play to say about this one. It's not very plot heavy. It's just sort of these two characters interacting. It's a thing where some people wouldn't enjoy it. People who expect different things out of movies. And I don't like to say that that's like a more basic taste, in that like it's not. It's people's expectations are actually really complicated. But like, it's like movies have changed what people's expectations of movies are. And so these things, the things that Joel's making, are small scale, not super plot driven, not like super exciting or anything crazy. They're just, relatively mundane a lot of the time. It works well. I like it. But, it's not what people have come to expect from movies. It's not what people have come to expect. And that expectation is something that is to a large extent like generated by movies. Like those expectations don't come naturally necessarily. It's the result of being exposed to this one kind of thing over and over again. If we existed in a world where Joel Haver movies were the most popular kind of movie, people wouldn't really be interested in these massive spectacles like we have now. They would be like, what? That's not what movies are for. And so you have people who do say like the opposite today. Like the average person who only watches maybe a couple of movies a year probably would either really love a movie like this because it's different, or they would be like, what is this? What's the point? Like, this isn't what movies are for. I think movies may have rotted my brain in the same way that movies have rotted a lot of people's brains. Except that was to an even great... Squirrel, don't come down and get eaten by breadcrumbs. Please don't do that. Breadcrumbs is stupid, but okay. I guess you forgot the squirrel existed. Okay, that's it. Breadcrumbs. Come on. Come... Breadcrumbs? Breadcrumbs. Come inside. You're not eating that squirrel. You're not eating that damn squirrel, Breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs, that squirrel would eat you, you fucking idiot.